Hi guys, so today in the Learn to Play episode we're about to enter, I'm gonna talk about the CT side of DE Train, a bunch of different methodologies of how to play CT side of DE Train, and as well as going over every single position of how they're gonna play it, and then like an overall conclusion in the end of what you have to focus about. So based on the feedback that I got from my previous two videos, I'm gonna like have it more structured like this, and hopefully you would enjoy it better. So enjoy. But let's get right into it. So for the CT side Mirage, we can just start with one position at a time. Okay, so if you're playing the B side, right, you have a bunch of different opportunities that you can do and play around. So the most common one is where you stand on ramp here and then jiggle peek like this. And the key of jiggling like this, even though you're open to this angle all the time, you're actually, like when they shoot you, if they peek you fast with an AWP, they can't really kill you because they only see your legs. And you can see up there, that guy. So it's like super good to do it this way, instead of like a lot of people do it this way, and then they just get like pre-aimed like this, and then they can get wallbanged as well. But yeah, when you look at it on the other end, like you stand all the way back here, right? On this thing here, so it's easy for you to, like, you can't really be seen, or they can only really see your feet, right? And it's not really, it's a bit of an off angle, because normally people pre-aim here, and then you can actually easily fall back without taking much damage. So that's like the fundamental principle. Like most of level 10 Faceit players, is like this is what they're gonna do every single round of every single match, also on team basis. So instead of doing that, there's some different solutions you can do. So a greater solution is if you just stand here and then just listen, and you can listen how many comes if they're coming fast. The only counter to, like, the T side can counter for doing this is essentially just sneaking all the way. But then you still have a timer, like, okay, well, if they come here and sneak, you like find out a timing. I think it's around 1:35 or something. They're gonna be out here and ready to peek you. So if you stand here and just listen and you don't hear anything until 1:35, then you can say, okay, well then they can be up, you know, and then you can fall back and play it. And then there's a lot of different variations you can do, a lot of different like things you can like, for example, use a one-way smoke here, and then you can see over it here as a thing, you know. That is a decent like normal play. Another play that's like really good, is especially against anti-eco, is if you smoke up here, the stand-up run. So if they have pistols, okay, I should hit as well. But if they have pistols and you throw this smoke, you can actually just wait either for a flash or just sit and hold the smoke. Because a really common thing on anti-ecos or on eco rounds for the CT side is to rush B. And either they are gonna have the practiced flash or not, but I think you can either find that out through a demo or with anti-threading, or you can like just feel it. Like, do you feel like they're gonna flash or not? Because if they're gonna have like, if they're gonna rushing, it's easy for you to stand like this and then just kill them all. Or you can just, you know, smoke, and then if you hear a flash, you can just throw a molly and fall back. When you fall back and play retake, like let's say they rush you again, so you need some protocols, okay? So if you hear them rushing, are you gonna molly? Like if you molly, then okay, well normally that's the most common thing for them to do, so normally they're gonna have a smoke ready, right? So a better thing you can do is either throw an HC, slow them down and then fall back, try and get up to mid side and hold this angle here, because there's gonna be like a long time before they're actually going out upper if they're rushing B. So you can just sit and hold this angle, or you can fall all the way back here and just stand here and stay alive, or you can even just hug here and wait for your teammates to back up. Now when they are rushing B and there's no smoke here, or generally when they are out, it's super important that you as the B player highlight that they can have an AWPer or someone posted on connector. So whenever they run out, your rotators need to be aware of that. So either so like they throw a flash or a smoke so they can come out, right? Another like, and then you can go back to just playing, you know, some strong angles on sides. So for example, this one is super strong. So if you crouch on the left side of train, then you can hold heaven, and you have an off angle for lower. So you can see, like, if you jiggle like this, it's a really good thing to do. So you're not as exposed. You know, you're only like peeking one plays at a time. You're never really open for heaven when you do it like this. The same as if you're playing up here, it's super gambly, and you can only like do it once in a match, maybe twice. But if you sit like this, you know, the T side can't see you when they come out ramp. So you can only hold heaven, and it's a super good off angle. But what's really like key with this is that like you can easily get timed. So if you crouch up, you know, you have a really like, there's only a small window of opportunity for them to time you. So either play 2 guys on B, or just like be prepared that they can like sneak out and be on B side, because this is not a spot they're gonna check like at all unless they come out heaven, because it's like natural for them to look at it that way, right? Another thing that's really good is a setup you can do with your AWPer on B, either early round or late round. But if you stand here on this edge here, you're not open for heaven, so you can sit here and hold lower, and then you can have an AWPer either up here posting. This is a good off angle as well, or he can be down here and just holding heaven for you. And then if they execute B, this guy can either like fight, and then he can fall into heaven, and then the AWPer, then like you have some things you have figured out how you're gonna react to it, right? Or just late round on B. If you're not playing retake, standing, you know, back here doing something like this, right? If you're not doing retake, then it's a really strong position to play up in heaven, because normally when they go B late round, it's on maximum 1 who's going heaven, generally speaking. So it's super strong to just like sit up here and just wait, stay alive, wait until they plant the bomb, kill him, and then just stay alive. It's like in a position like this, it's so important for you to just stay alive and play time. Let them, like, as soon as you're up here, they're scared for heaven. But if you overpeak and then fight further and die, then they don't have to worry about heaven anymore. So if you just kill one and then just wait and just let your teammates, you know, play and kill them, and then you just sit and hold yourself. Okay, so for pop dog, and this is generally for both the rotation pop and main player. Normally you want 3 guys out of main. Another common thing that's like even more common than the B jiggling thing is like the pop player in pucks, especially in faces. They're gonna want to be in pop dog every single round. And what that means is if you get on a team level, you do not know, like the normal pop player you have do not know how to hold outside without being in pop dog. So you need to really practice that, like some strong setups that you can do. So like a good one is, for example, having a guy in mid bomb or behind red, and then a guy in sandwich. So, and then you have your AWPer, you know, somewhere else. Like you need like these really strong triangle setups with 3 or 4 people. And so for throwing grenades towards main, one thing that's really normal in facet pucks as well is to throw a flash. First guy throws a flash like this, and the second guy throws a money, right? So if you do it like this, the AWPer can still come out. If he comes out, he can just look in the ground, or he can just go anti-flash until he's here, and he will take 10 damage from the molly at max, and he can still get an entry. So a really strong thing to do is actually just to triple nade it. So throw 3 nades like this, and then if the AWPer peaks, he's gonna die every single time. Like it lands straight in his face, right? But what's super important with like when you have to stop an outer rush is either, you know, throw like this, or you can just like do a double flashbang, you know. Keep flashing, because if they are rushing, it doesn't if they're rushing out main, it doesn't really matter that the first guy isn't blind, because the second and third guy is going to be completely blind, and then you have a free like fight towards the first guy here. It's the same if they have a rifle as the front spawn, just rushing out like this and then fighting. Like normally when the guys want to get to pop, they go like this to be anti-flash. So this guy, he just comes out and kills them for free. I remember an iconic play Mayan did from MIBR when he played there, the Argentinian, and he just went out like right side with an AK or maybe a Krieg, and then he just killed 4 people and won the round based on that one spawn, because the team weren't ready for it. Again, if you triple nade it, it's just like either he's dead or he has 10 HP, you know, and it's like super strong to do that. But again, you can't really do it every single round. It's really dependent on like a lot of factors, like if they are rushing at all, or or they can just, you know, come out after the nades. So yeah, there's a bunch of things. You can also, like, instead of using the flash, you can just have a nade and a molly, and then you're guaranteed to give the guy peeking a lot of damage. But again, that's like the most important thing, is how you want to talk. How you have to like talk about how you want to stop an A rush throughout team main, because that's the most like difficult thing to stop on lower levels of terrain on team play. And this is like super important. And also try and figure out what they are trying to do in Faceit or in team plays, like which strategies do they do the most, and how, like, can you win against those? Like, do you have protocols set up? Do you have everything set up so you can counter it? So a really common, like very, very common strat, both in Faceit and team play, is for an upper with the best spawn to come out and peek like this with a flashbang, and then they have 3 guys rushing pop dog, who's just gonna go out and then go up through pop wall, coming out on flashes, right? So if you want to counter that, well, how can you counter it? Well, one thing you could do, right? You have to talk about this with your team, right? You can like triple nade here, and then you can have a guy come up and molly in pop, yeah, without failing, right? So, and again, that's like a super strong, like that's a good way of countering that specific strategy, and it's a decent way to get pop dog control as well. But again, it's like super, super important that you talk about these things, and just generally talk about setups and what they're weak against. So if you have a setup with, like, let's say you have a setup with 2 guys in pop, where one is here and one is here, then talk about like what is this setup weak to? Like where is the upper? Well, maybe the upper is here. So maybe the upper is here and holding this angle, and then you have 2 guys in pop dog. Well, what is this weak to? Like, this is super weak to the common T molly, like they throw where it lands here. Because then if the CT smoke it, they smoked out themselves, and they had to, like, one of them have to go out of pop and hold this angle or something, you know? So, or maybe they're super weak to an Ivy hit where they smoke this, right? And then come around backline. Again, like, you need to talk about these things, and then how would you react in these situations, right? So what is the right way of countering, like, if they counter your setup where you have 2 guys in pop and then a guy in on red train holding Ivy, what are you weak against? What is it that you're super, like, what reactions do you have to do to make it, like, better for yourself, to give yourselves a better chance of winning the round? Is it having a B player go down CT and hold here? Or what is it? Like, you have to, like, talk about all the scenarios and then make sure, like, you act accordingly to those, like, to the plans that you make, right? And if you want to take, like, team main control, again, like, how do you want to do it? There's like a million ways to do it. So you can, like, even do it from, you can have a guy like smoking like this and then giving a flash again. Okay, it landed there. Yeah, whatever. You get the point, right? Or, you know, you can have, like, okay, well, maybe there's just a guy on red train who, like, throws a smoke and then a flash in for you guys, you know? Like, it doesn't have to be rocket science, but you have to talk about, like, how you want to do it. And then, well, what if they counter you? What if, like, what counterplays can they do in this situation? And it doesn't even have to be on team main. Like, what are your weak points on the entire map if you take team main with 3 people, right? Well, either it's pop dog, but you have it smoked off, or it should be Ivy, or it's Ivy, or towards B, because towards B you only have 1 guy and you have a long rotation, right? So you have to talk about, okay, well, if we take team main as a team, well, how should the B player and Ivy player play? Like, maybe the Ivy player should just, you know, stand on top of green train and hold like this. Or maybe there should be 2 guys inside and then count on them not having an Ivy rush, and then you have, like, your upper doing all the nades here, and then he can hold Ivy afterwards, right? So if your upper smokes deep main and flashes, and then holds Ivy afterwards, right? But then again, like, is it early round, mid round, or late round? Again, like, what you need different plans for different situations. So that's, like, super important and a super common thing. Like, you need super clear plans for what to do in each round. So how do you play outside against pistols? How do you play outside against half pies? how do you play outside against full buys? And then what if they rush? What if they play slow? What if they go B while you're in a double pop setup? Like, talk about these things. Like, okay, well, what if they go B where you have a long rotation for them, right? Like, there's all these variables. It's the same with the Ivy player. Like, that's a good general rule of thumb. Having the Ivy player being like the anchor player on A side, right? So your Ivy player is gonna be the last guy rotating. So he's the last guy who's gonna rotate, and he's gonna rotate when he sees bomb, because he can hold if like they have a late lurk Ivy, or he can see if they have someone like sneaking out team mid, playing different positions. Okay, well, and then you as the Ivy player, well, how do you want to play it? Like, do you want to just stand here and jiggle with a smoke, or do you want to hold like a pixel angle, and then when you see them, you can just smoke, right? Or do you want to molly out every single round so they can't rush towards Ivy? And then in some rounds you can get a flash and then come out and take it, you know. Okay, well, you sit on one and then just smoke it out. And then if you have this, like, what plays can you do? Like, you can even like make a boost here and look towards T-spawn. But again, like if you do something like this, then you have two guys taking Ivy, and then you only have two guys like locking down team main and pop rush. So you like, again, so identify the weaknesses of the different plays that you want to make or that you're making, and then try and act accordingly. So, well, if you're only two guys towards team main, well, what nade should you use? Like, what is good for you guys to use to understand, like, to stop an auto rush? Or should you even try and stop it, or just let them have side and play retake? Like, you can play from back side or just from old bomb here, and then a guy up heaven maybe, and then you can just wait, you know, with maybe a molly and a flash towards T-link, and then an early smoke in pop. Again, like, there's a million different ways, but you have to talk about how you want it. Like, you can even have your even have your B player coming without, and then masking like the Ivy play with like him throwing the third nade towards Link or something, right? So, like, these are just some general methodologies and thoughts, but like in core essence, it's super important that you talk about. So yeah, first of all, talk about the setups. What are you weak against? What are you trying to do in this setup? What are you weak against in this setup? And how should you react if they do what you're weak against? Second, if you make a push, like, where identify your weak sides on the map, on the CT side. Is it early round, mid round, or late round? Again, that's also super important. Are you playing, yeah, and then identify the weaknesses and try, and you don't have to hold on to the positions, but you have to really talk about how you want to react, and then everyone's on the same page. And for the third, like, if you have long rotations towards the different sides, how should your anchor player play it? So if you have, again, if you have super long rotations, again, like, how should your anchor player play it? Should he play retake, or should he just be in front and try and get a 2-for-1 trade, or what is he gonna do? And then another thing is, okay, well, if he's in a one and done spot on let's say B or Ivy, right? Like the anchor player you have on B, he's in a one and done spot. Maybe he's on white train while there's a long, like, you maybe even have an operating connector, right? Okay, so if you have a guy there and he's in a one and done spot, well, how can you give him backup? So talk about how, if your B player is super aggressive in a one and done spot, what things can you do as either as the connector rotator? What can you do to show, like, to give him the best possible backup for him to get the most kills before he die? And also, as the B player anchor, maybe you're stuck in a one and done spot. Like, then you have to think about, if you want to play for time and get your guys to rotate in so they have a possibility of planting the bomb later, or like I talked about with the guy in heaven, or if he's just hiding behind white train or something, or if he should just kill and go for the possible trade, like the possible advantage you can get in him holding the side. So, like, there's all of these variables that you have to talk about to make a successful CT side on DE train, and like, this is just a small part of it. But again, all feedback is super welcome, and thank you for watching. Follow me on Twitter @PuffinCS.